Obviously the using the Open Zeppelin standards for the basis of our smart contract, which is the basis of all NFT contracts, more specifically the ERC 721 interfaces or protocols. Those were written many years ago, of course, and gas was not as much of a problem back then when Ethereum was sitting around about 40 to 60 to $80 a coin. If you used up a fair chunk, it would still only be $3 or $4 of gas to mint a NFT. The gas itself is effectively how many units of computing power you use to mint an NFT. That hasn't changed over the last 4 or 5 years, of course, because the code that executes is exactly the same. But the cost of Ethereum has gone up. So if something cost, let's just say, 150,000 gas units to mint an NFT 4 years ago, that would have equated to a couple of dollars in Ethereum. Now we're talking about somewhere around that $100, $120 in Ethereum for the same thing, which is why you see people complaining, say, minting a $200 NFT and it's costing me $150 in gas. To add to that, you get the gas wars as well, whereby everyone's trying to mint the same thing at the same time, so the gas prices spike for a small period of time as well. That compounds the problem. So you can go back to the root of what gas is. It's the computation units you're buying effectively from the miners out there to say, please mine my minting. That can be, we look at the code now that's running and we just see that it's not as optimal as it could be. It didn't need to be optimal 4 years ago. Now there's plenty of little bits and pieces we can do. At the low level, without going too much further, it's basically how we're storing the addresses on the blockchain. We have to pay for every unit that we store. So when someone purchases an NFT, we take your Ethereum address and we're storing that on the blockchain. Think of that as a big decentralized database, and you pay for that storage once, and then it's free to read forever. So you pay a big fee up chunk, a big chunk upfront. If that's not done optimally, or you're storing that address in multiple places, then that's what inflates the gas prices, and that's what we can optimize quite heavily in the smart contract now. We can take just the functionality we need to make our project work, and if we know we're never going to use a certain function, such as enumerating someone's wallet or whatever it may be, then we don't need to implement that in our smart contract. But the Open Zeppelin standard would automatically have that there for you. So it becomes redundant code. So it's just about scaling it back and using just what you need and more efficiently.
See, if you optimize too heavily, starting to use some of the newer tech, it actually breaks the ability to work with the marketplaces. Is that right?
Yes, indeed. So there's some standard functionality there, such as transfer an NFT for someone like OpenSea to be able to handle that in their marketplace. That function has to be less compatible. Even if you tweak the code behind it, it still has to do exactly what it was originally intended, which is move your NFT from your wallet to the person who's purchased it. The OpenSea will use, there's a number of functions they do use, but typically that's the transfer side of things. The minting is it's pretty much a free for all because we're not minting from OpenSea. We're minting from our own website, so we can control exactly how that happens. And it's that initial storing and setting up of the slots in the memory slots on the blockchain that cost the coin. But you're certainly right. Yes, if we do tweak things, then compatibility is absolutely essential. Otherwise, you may or may not have seen over the years. You may have tried to buy an NFT that seems really cheap or ridiculously below the floor price on OpenSea. You get all the way through, you hit the purchase button and it just comes up with error. And you're like, oh, well, maybe someone else just bought it. So you go back to OpenSea and have a look again. Nope, still for sale. That is a smart contract that is unable to correctly transfer the NFT from one account to the other. So someone's trying to sell it for $5, but no one can purchase it.
Nice. Cool. Do we want to move on to that next question there, Caleb?
Yeah, for sure. I was just basking in the gloryful knowledge of the code.
Anything technical, and even anything security, crypto related would be good to ask Kenobi. So if anyone's got any questions related, even off topic, it's very interesting to hear his insights. So
Yeah.
Next question is regarding the whitelist and finalizing that. We've been working on that for the last couple of days. Juicy's running that. Basically, what we're looking at doing is adding all the people that have been approved and done the right steps into a role on Discord. That's currently happening. We have to do that manually, each person, which is why it's taking a little bit of time. Still will be done by the end of this week. We'll then have a channel set up for all the people in that whitelist role, which you'll need to react to, and that'll confirm your spot. So more information will come out this afternoon and into this evening, but that should be a fairly straightforward and easy process for everyone that's applied. So just stay tuned and keep a lookout for that message, and you'll get tagged in that.
Cool. I mean, yeah. I mean, you can just keep on going through the questions too. You don't gotta wait on me to
just having a little sip of water there.
No problem.
Any sneak peek for the next evolutions? Well, we've shown off some of the cavemen. We've got some more imagery to push out probably this coming week. But apart from that, anything after that is a top secret that we're going to keep to our chest. And only the first people that then get to that level will be able to reveal that artwork. So it's going to be a surprise for everyone. Very, very few people are going to know or have seen what that looks like. So I think that's part of the interest of the game. What was the conception process for the team? Is it possible to share a little bit of the background? Yeah, that's a cool question. Kenobi, do you want to talk about when we started looking at NFTs pretty early on last year and how we sort of molded this together?
Indeed, yeah. So our background there, a number of us have been working together for the last 10 years on other projects. And there's a few new guys on the team here that have come in, so we've expanded that. But those previous projects, have always been started in the sort of the Web 1 area, moved into Web 2 sort of a decade ago, and then we went heavily into apps as well. We had app platforms. So typically our heritage has always been building a platform where we would then be able to sub-license that or bring clients on board. So we don't normally take just sort of one-off projects on and right to do that. So we'd like to get right into the depths of a platform and make it as extensive as possible, finding all the optimizations, making it run smoothly. So getting into the big data side of things, and getting quite interested in crypto itself, with Jock specifically, probably around about the 2017 bull run. Probably did the same. Fell into the same mistakes that most people did, and jumping on very quickly and putting a lot of energy into that just as it was hitting the peak. Held on all the way through the bear market and going, there's so much potential out there in crypto. We really believe the foundation of what crypto can offer, and blockchain can offer the world in a number of areas. So we started throwing ideas and projects out there. We prototyped a few. We had a little play with some, specifically in the token arena. And then we stumbled across NFTs, more and more, hearing more and more about them. And we decided that was a more interesting area to go into, because you had this, well, still it helps with the adoption a little bit, because you have something you can physically, well, I say physically, but you can actually see, a piece of artwork you can see, and it was intriguing that there was so much hype being built around these effectively, digital JPEGs. It took us a while to fully get the mentality behind that, and then we jumped on board the train and really got sucked into that. It's an awesome area. There's so much potential for NFTs. So it then became, okay, how do we just move away from the concept of just buying an NFT that you can use for your profile photo? There's some very successful projects out there, of course, the likes of Bored Apes, and some projects there with some great utilities and gameplay. But there is also a vast majority of NFT projects that's really, to be fair, they don't have any utility. They're just there as great pieces of artwork. No disrespect to the artists and the collections themselves, but the hype soon dies off those projects. So we thought, is there a way to take the love of this artwork and what it is at the moment and bridge it into start bridging into other areas and start bridging to something new, without just going to a full multiplayer online game, for instance. So started throwing out some ideas around, and we came up with the concept of Devolve, where it could be played purely on chain, and the artwork complements the effectively the gameplay itself, but it's not an essential component if you think about it. So we've got this bridge between the crypto world, where you can attract people who might be interested in the economic value and the strategies and the maths and the gameplay behind it, a little bit like playing chess, for instance. And we've also got the side where you can, hey, look, I've just evolved this, and I've got this cool character, and I've got some rarity in the traits, and hey, that maybe looks a little bit like myself or someone I know, or that's a, you know, so it gives you that concept as well, where you can actually feel that you do own a piece of the blockchain. Anything to add there, Jock?
Yeah, I think like in our past, we've looked at how can we use gamification as a tactic and a strategy to engage large populations on the platforms that we were working on, specifically in mobile apps. A lot of our history is in public health awareness, and looking at the ways to educate those populations on things that they might not necessarily care about. So using gamification was a strategy that enabled us to actually get people to engage with things that they weren't particularly interested in engaging in, but would actually help on their health side of things. So it's always something we've considered. How do we implement and engage these populations of people using gamification techniques? And when we started to look into NFT technology over, say, just a standard token, we started just to imagine, well, what can we do with this technology? What does it enable us to do? What other ways can we use this apart from just an avatar project? So we really just started to brainstorm, well, what can the tech do? And a lot of how Devolve developed was just, you know, long conversations over many hours discussing different components of the ECR 721 protocol, what it enables people to do. We're looking at some projects that had some more interesting technical capabilities in terms of the burning and combining, and that really just got our sort of minds flowing on what could we do that could actually use that token technology more extensively. Obviously there's so much more to NFTs than just the artwork. You know, it is the storage of metadata against a token, and there's so much more that you can do with it. So we really wanted to look at experimenting with, well, how much further can we take what's already there? So combining a few of those things, Kenobi and I have battled each other in chess for a long time. So that's another thing that we always sort of thinking about, is how can we have a strategy component. We've come from the world of trading, Bitcoin trading, and, you know, crypto trading. So that's another layer that we tried to lay down in this, is like, how can we have the interesting strategic component of trading, of chess, of gaming, of artwork, of using all the tech. That's kind of like the mishmash of stuff that we're interested in. And it just so happened to fall into this idea of Devolve, you know, and we started to think about the concept of evolution, how you can sort of like crypto kitties, you can combine two kitties and you can breed a new one. That was inflationary. And we've always, you know, been really interested in the whole concept of a deflationary, projects in general. And then thinking about applying that in an NFT was really interesting. And that kind of led us to think about going backwards through evolution, you know, and I think it's hard to disagree that some areas in the world feel like they're probably going backwards instead of forwards in a lot of ways, especially in the last few years. So it's kind of an interesting play on what's happening in the world as well, with the whole concept of humans devolving back, not necessarily forwards. So yeah, I think that's kind of, I guess, the high level conception of the project. And we sort of started there, and then we just every week we'd have another few discussions and realize there's another layer to put on here. And Kenobi is really good at finding the holes in different scenarios and how could it be gamed. So we'd have 4 or 5 hour discussions on, well, how could someone take advantage of this situation? How can we avoid it? How can we make another decision for them to make it more difficult? So we just kept adding layer and layer and layer and addressing all the different concerns that we could bring up. So yeah, it was a good 6 months, I reckon, of really, really thinking through every possible scenario and addressing every concern that we had before even telling anyone what we were thinking about. So yeah, there's a lot of thought that's gone in, and I'm sure anyone that's looked at the white paper can see that.
Yeah, thanks for that. Good few points there that I hadn't brought up. It also leads us into, Devolve and the community that get involved in Devolve, it's a bit of a tongue twister, are, it's not just this project that we're looking at. Devolve is the first sort of stake in the ground, so to speak, for us in the NFT arena. And we have a number of ideas and some quite, outlandish and some really big plans. But we'd have to, we have to have that community support around us, and we have to have that, hey, these guys have already done this project and successfully done that. What are they doing next type approach? So that's where we would love to see the project go as well, with everyone who's involved through the NFTs are going to have, sort of an invitation there to be part of whatever comes next. There's a lot of scope around that for what's going to happen with NFTs in a whole, where the marketplaces, maybe fully decentralized marketplaces, you've got concepts of fractionalization, which is becoming a little bit more sort of used around the place now, whether or not it's accepted by the community, where you can take a very expensive NFT and split it up into many parts. But it doesn't have to be necessarily as simple as that. You could have the concept of collateralized loans against your NFT. You've got a $300,000 Bored Ape. If you had that as a $300,000 of Polkadot token or whatever, you can throw it into one of these lending protocols and actually get some money out to use in the meantime. So there'd be could be ways to leverage the NFTs that are there. All of these sort of things are there, ready to be, sort of scooped up and built over the next 3 to 4 years, and that is our projection for where Devolve will go. And the community behind us we'll be able to start dipping our toes into some of those waters and seeing what can be built.
Yeah, definitely. I think that brings up the whole concept of this Devolve Labs name that we're playing around with for all these future projects. And I think it's also interesting to consider the number of traditional businesses and companies and brands that are trying to transition into the NFT space, and so far mostly it's just still sticking with the graphics component. But I think we're gonna see people are going to fatigue of just that, and they're going to want more. They're going to want the gaming component. They're going to want more tech. They're going to want an interesting way of interacting with these brands. And this is the sort of technology that we're pioneering now through Devolve that's going to be accepted and used by a lot more of the new projects that are going to be coming on board. So I think it's interesting just to play with what we're using now and see how that can then apply to a lot of other projects.
A lot of real life implementations of this as well. Think of NFTing house mortgages or house loans or title deeds or car registrations, movie tickets, cinema tickets. Maybe not so much those, but even concert tickets, where the secondary market is always feels like a black market. Someone legitimately can't go to a concert and they want to sell it, and you just don't know if you're buying a real ticket from that person these days because it's a digital. It's been bought online, so how do you know they haven't resold that ticket 3 times? So NFTs are going to be here whether or not you're interacting with an NFT, because the blockchain layer will be obscured from most people's transactions in the future. You pay someone now via PayPal or Stripe, or you tap your credit card. You don't know what processes are happening in the background. All you need to know is, hey, I do this. So having someone like PayPal come on board, and they're already in crypto, but having them to be able to have a marketplace, for instance, for transacting concert tickets, that could be where NFTs go. And again, why couldn't we could certainly get into that arena as well with Devolve Labs. It's a lot there that some of the bigger corporations can't move too quickly on, because they do have their own roadmaps, and they can't seem to be adopting this new scary technology straight off the bat. And plenty of opportunities there.
No,
so I think a short question.
Yeah. The next question, I think you answered in the chat, but if you want, we could go back over it about the Devolve process. If you only have one, or if you have two, who keeps it?
I think that's good to go over as well, because I think the guy or girl who asked that in the chat was unable to join us. They're in Europe. So the Devolve process, the reason why there was probably a bit of confusion there is at the very end of the white paper, there are a couple of, hey, future concept, this is where Devolve could go. So that may be where it's like, oh, who owns what when you devolve? But take that apart, take that out of the idea for now. The devolve process is quite simply, you need to take two of the NFTs from the same level. So assuming level one, because that's where we're starting. You then effectively push those two NFTs into our smart contract. They devolve, and you get a level two NFT back out of that, which is the Neanderthal caveman NFT. You do also get the zombified versions of your originals as well, which are yours to keep. They have different utility. They can't be used again to mint another caveman. So two level ones creates one level two. You need to own both of those level ones. You can't share that across two wallets. It has to be the same wallet. The second sort of part of that question was, okay, now I've got one caveman. How do I get to level three? You've got two options there. You can purchase or acquire two more level ones and create another caveman. You now have two cavemen. You can then take those two cavemen and go up to a level three. Secondly, there's going to be a marketplace on OpenSea, of course. You could go and purchase a second caveman, and you've generated one, you've purchased one, you've now got two, you can level up to level three. There's obviously you can transfer if you've done this through multiple wallets, or you are, we don't recommend this at all, but if you are working with someone outside of the Devolve ecosystem, as long as you transfer those to the same wallet, you can devolve. You don't have to go through marketplaces to do a transfer. You just obviously can't set a purchase price on that if you do it outside of the OpenSea marketplace. So if you are operating multiple wallets for whatever reason, or you've got them on your Ledger or your Trezor or your hardware wallet, then just transfer them to the correct wallet, get them in the same wallet, and then go for Devolve. Devolving, I will say as well, is not automatic. You get to if you've got 5 or 6 level ones in there, you will get to choose which two you're devolving. So it's not just, it will randomly pick two. If you've got a favorite there, or something with a rare trait, or something you really like and you just want to keep, you certainly won't accidentally devolve that because you get choice.
The only thing I'll tag on to the end of that is the two level 1 humans, or whichever level you're choosing to push into the devolve process, must be in the same bloodline.
Yeah, there is that aspect as well. Yeah, so we have 5 bloodlines just to try and, I suppose, support the secondary sales and swapping a bit more. That concept. So earth, fire, water, air, and energy. The energy bloodline, bit of alpha here, is a rarer bloodline. You can only ever get all the way through to level 8 twice with that one, I believe, whereas the other ones have more available. It's just how maths works. Divide 5,376 by 8, and you'll find that you don't get a number that's divisible by 4. So a bit of gameplay there as well, because it allows certain bloodlines maybe to be devolved more than others, which means that the rarity, it sort of it leads into this whole concept of dynamic rarity. And it was just another play on that, another strategy, just to make it a little bit less, I just have to grab two level ones and devolve up. Well, it's now like, do I go for a certain bloodline? Do those bloodlines give me different artwork going through the chain, through the levels? This is questions that and little nuggets that we can throw in there as we go.
And Bizzle will like the fact that was partially inspired by Charles Poliquin's neurotransmitter training, by training athletes. So that's a little bit of alpha knowledge for you there, Bizzle. You like that?
What's the next question on that list there?
Would like to hear the marketing plan and who you got lined up, etc. Caleb, do you want to take reins on that one?
Yes. Okay, so we have a lot going on in our marketing plan. And I guess a little bit of background on me is I'm a TikTok ad agency owner, and I work directly with TikTok, and we have an account manager there along with the credit line. And before that, I had a Facebook ad agency, and before that, I had a video production company. So I know a lot, or I've been in the marketing space for 5 years now, and because I work directly with TikTok, I'm in a very interesting position because I help verify influencers. So because my company spends enough money on TikTok ads, they gave us access to more things like verification forms. So a lot of people on TikTok know that I help with verification. So I get some of the biggest influencers to come to me for that. And, from there I built up I kind of was acquired by a bigger ad agency that does full service marketing, where the owner of it, or my partner in it, invented the ShamWow. And she also invented the head massager thing that goes on your head. And she's worked on all of these direct to consumer products. And she's done, uh, collectively as a company, we've done around $5 billion in sales. So it's really interesting. It's really fun. And with that comes a lot of connections, because our head of branding was also the creator of the Tom's Give a Shoe or Buy a Shoe, Give a Shoe campaign. And we have another Google arm in our company, and a movie producer also in our company. So to summarize where I come from, is a lot of connections in basically every space. So a lot of what we're trying to do right now is connect with those people that I know, because a lot of them are um, interested in NFTs, and we're really trying to find. I mean, we're all talking to YouTubers, we're talking to celebrities, we're talking to musicians to try and get them in on the project, and help us with bringing their audiences over into Web3 and blockchain gaming and everything that Devolve is doing. And on top of that, we're organizing our content strategy to be more consistent, and most especially, we're trying to make sure that we engage with the community, which is why we're doing an AMA, and we plan on doing more events and you know, giveaways of whitelists and white list spots and maybe other things. And we plan on doing more hangouts, because the one thing that I do, like, cause my company, we are getting a lot of metaverse projects and NFT projects. Just every venture capitalist wants to get in on it. And the main thing that I say is you have to have a long-term vision into doing NFTs. It's not like a fly-by-the-night type deal, and I'm not going to market something that's just going to make you a quick 10 million or a million unless I can see that you guys have a fully fleshed out plan. And if they don't, then I'm usually the one in charge of building out that legacy plan to make sure that it's kind of like a stock, like you have a microeconomy. So, yeah, that's a basic overview of what our plan is. If you have any more specific questions, you can ask that. But yeah.
Can we change our OG wallet or whitelist wallet? Yes, you can do that. Maybe just send Juicy or myself a DM, and we can sort that out for you. Can you talk about the real world value Devolve would bring? What do holders get access to? Any ideas in the pipeline? I guess Kenobi kind of touched on that. I think the core ongoing value is going to be access to all the future projects that we are looking at doing. I think Kenobi touched on the fact that this really is our flag in the sand. As Devolve Labs, this is our proof of concept. We've already got some other customers that we're talking with at the moment for future projects with some really interesting different takes on the NFT space that are looking to us as being their dev team. So there's going to be a lot of really interesting opportunities from a investment point of view, I guess you could say, for the community. Anything to add there, Kenobi?
Yeah, just a few things as well. Obviously, the gameplay itself, it's a good strategic way to play. The other big component of Devolve is the royalty pool concept as well. So, in a real high level overview on that, when you have your Devolved NFTs, those are the zombified versions. They have access to, as a whole, 5% of all of the secondary sales that occur on places like OpenSea. That all goes into the royalty pool. So at any point in time, if you decide you want to pass that NFT in, so to speak, you can withdraw the allocated amount of Ethereum attached to that NFT from those secondary sales. As that goes through, there's rarities, there's a lot of dynamics involved in that. I'd encourage you to read the white paper in those sections. So not every NFT is equal, and the pool is split across the 8 levels. And obviously, the number of NFTs at each level halves. So you can see there already that the higher up you go, the more your NFT at, say, level 6 or level 7 is worth in that pool. So that, again, is like an economic reward there. As the gameplay takes shape and more transactions happen on OpenSea and people are playing different strategies. Some people may play the low-level strategy of just going for level 1s and 2s, devolving and selling them because they're smaller value. Others may try and devolve all the way up to level 7 and then try and sell on that. So all of those sales, you only have to go to OpenSea and just sort by the ranking there. Obviously the biggest projects have had billions, literally billions of dollars in sales. You take 5% of that, huge number. We're not saying we're going to compete with the likes of Bored Ape. You don't have to be far down the list to see that it's still substantial amount of revenue comes in from those sales, and some of those projects are probably unknown to most people. So we believe that with this encouragement, that's where the bloodlines came in as well, to try and encourage the secondary sale market to trade and swap and increase that royalty pool.
Yeah, I think that's an important point. The entertainment of the project itself isn't to be overlooked. Most of these passive avatar projects, you just purchase and hope that it goes up, and that's about it. You might put it as your profile picture and look at it every so often and pat yourself on the back. But apart from that, there's not much more you can do. Whereas Devolve is this entire ecosystem of different strategies and different ways you can look to get the best personal and economic outcome, whether that's sitting and holding or buying and flipping. We've got a number of strategies that we'll be educating people on and rolling out videos, but there'll be countless others that we've never even thought of. And it is something that obviously, as long as you can afford to mint one, you're playing at some level of the strategy. So it does really cover off both ends of that economic spectrum that you can be involved in some way. And it's just a lot more interesting in our minds than just purchasing an avatar profile picture that sends you a T-shirt or whatever, and then that's it. You sit in your wallet and you hope that it goes up. You can actively participate in a way that can actually increase your return on investment, and you can have fun doing it. Strategizing and seeing what happens. The part that really interests me is how do you then factor in what everyone else is doing? It's not a passive game where you play against a computer system or you're playing against a fixed set of rules. You might purchase something and it's at a certain rarity, but then the other people in the community that have that burn it, and therefore your single NFT becomes rarer. As the community plays the game according to their own interests, it's going to affect your strategy and the way you want to play the game. And I think that's a really interesting component, because it does make you come back each day and think, well, what's happened? What's changed in the last 24 hours? What's happened overnight? And that's what I've always enjoyed about trading is price action never sleeps. So you might go to sleep for 8 hours, wake up, Bitcoin's gone up 15%, or it's dropped 10%, or unfortunately lately dropped a lot more than that. So there is this interesting component of coming back, and there's always something that's changed, always something that you can take action on. And you can play it passively, you can play it actively. So I think that's a really, really interesting component that I really haven't seen in a lot of projects, where you're actively looking at what everyone else is doing and seeing how that's going to affect what you're doing. So
it's quite interesting, the whole aspect there as well of you alone. You don't one of the strategies, you don't have to necessarily be the one that buys and holds and hopes that your item becomes a little bit more rare because things have been devolved around you. You could purchase something that if you've got a bit more of a wallet there, you can purchase more of the common traits, focus on one of the traits, for instance, and just focus on buying those level 1s, devolving them, burning them to release some funds from the royalty pool, go back and buy more level 1s with exactly the same trait, such as the sunglasses or something like that, and just keep doing that cycle, but always keep 1 or 2 of those in your wallet. So what you're doing by playing the game is actually making your other NFTs in your wallet rarer, and you could effectively devolve one out of existence if you wanted to. So it makes for interesting mechanics there, because that rarity is filters through to the royalty pool as well.
What's next? Does Devolve give you cheaper ATG subscription? Not at this point. Maybe in the future. Any plans to bring individual Devolves to a metaverse ecosystem as a character or an item?
Certainly, so it's something we haven't addressed at this stage, but nothing is beyond. We're not. What's the right way of saying it? Not yet. I would say not yet.
Not yet. It's probably something that we would look at for the final stage, the final 42. I think that would be interesting. That they're the ones that live on forever, and they can have an active role in the metaverse. It also then makes the rest. It makes getting to that final stage more desirable, because there's more that you can then continue on with them.
There could be all sorts of other concepts we could do with the other levels as well. But yeah, there would certainly be. Certainly, if we looked at the metaverse wasn't as big a thing when we were talking about this started talking about this about a year ago, and now it is. So it's definitely worth looking at ways to push utility across to that side as well. Our first priority and goal, obviously, is to head towards a successful mint and get the gameplay started, and then with the community behind us, we do want to hear what people want to say, where people would like to see us go, and that vision. Although we have our own vision for how Devolve could look as well, we certainly want the community to be the ones that drive where our attention is focused, and that certainly could be nervous.
We've got a few people typing questions at the moment. I think we've reached the end of what's already in the chat.
If we don't get any more at the moment, then let's pick up another AMA. This is recorded as well. We can have this for others to listen to who couldn't get on the same time zones.
Yeah. Okay. So Big Will has asked, I fielded the same question from another community I'm involved with that is checking and tracking Devolve. Discord is at 1K. How will the project ensure this number gets closer to 10K to give a good indication of sellout? Part 2, what percentage of the sale do you think you need to ensure the game starts well? Kenobi or Caleb, do you want to jump on that one?
Yeah, a chat there. Obviously, that's why we initially did push our minting away from December and letting Christmas New Year period people go through that period and enjoy time with families, etc. We want to make sure that when we do launch this project and mint towards the end of January, early February, we have the community behind us to get successful minting happening there. You're correct. You sort of need that, high thousands, 10,000 sort of level. Caleb has come on board to direct us in that area. We have the technical and the experience, skills on blockchain behind us, and Caleb is that missing piece, and the team he brings with him. I am Pi as part of that side of the team to put the action points in place to build the community. You'll start to see a big change over the next few weeks on Discord. We've had a good couple of weeks now working with Caleb behind the scenes, and it's just in the last few days that we're starting to push that out onto social media, and that's already had a lot of traction over the last 2 or 3 days as well. And we've really only just, taken the first tip of the iceberg of what Caleb's planning for us. So that strategy is certainly a big one for us. We've also made some really good progress on some of the influencers we were talking to before Caleb came on board, and now that has been brought into the mix as well, and that could give us exposure in other areas, slightly, even a bit further afield than the strict NFT channels, which will be once we have those discussions finalised, we'll definitely be revealing that to everybody. What was the second part there?
The second part was, what percentage of the sale do you think you need to ensure the game starts well?
The intention to be upfront, the intention is that we have a successful minting sellout, and then the devolving process can start after that point. It's not a requirement in the smart contract for that to happen. It's just more, I would say, more. It's the way we'd like to go. I believe that it would be better to ensure putting all our focus into getting sure we're getting a really good solid minting happen. The marketing strategy is working around that. If we decide to aim for a certain percentage, that figure hasn't been discussed at the moment, but that would then allow us to change our marketing. So if we're going for this towards the mint, and then we'll change after the minting, we're changing our marketing track to talk about Devolve itself and the gameplay to bring more on board. We're only 5,300 odd NFTs, so it's not like some of these other NFT things out of the past. Things like Top Shots, like NBA Top Shots, for instance, which have literally millions of NFTs now. But they're constantly adding to their additions, and the game changes based on the new type of cards that come in. So yeah, I'd like to see. Do you sort of resonates with what you think there, Jock, as well? Because we're aiming for a full mint, and then the game starts.
And I think we did everything we could on the marketing side, and we realized that we didn't have the connections we needed, and there's so much noise in the space that to get through to the relevant influencers that can get the word out to the right people, we just couldn't get seen. So that's where we sort of put the brakes on, put a pause on, and realized that we needed to bring someone like Caleb on board who already has those connections and the ability to make new connections. So that's where we sort of put the pause on all the public side of things, and we went behind the scenes to improve our team, get the marketing arm on with someone, and obviously go through vetted and went through all the steps with Caleb. So that's sort of what's been happening behind the scenes for the last few weeks, working out the strategy, getting everything set up. So you'll start to see all of that rolling out now from this week onwards. And I think that's where we'll start to see a lot of the big action that we've been waiting for. But that's obviously sort of lull over Christmas and New Year period, which is expected. But we were working feverishly behind the scenes, chatting to some of these influencers. Everything takes time, as I'm sure everyone can understand. But also working on the strategy with Caleb since he came on board, and we've got his team as well. So, yeah.
Thanks, guys. I know that was a question without notice from me, but I appreciate the answer. Solid.
No worries.
There's another question in there, isn't there? We provide marketing content. Yes, that's part of the strategy that we're working with Caleb now as well. We just felt we needed to, in essence, re-engage the Discord community we had, because we got the great hype at the beginning. But there are a number of bits and pieces we're putting together over the next week that will allow you guys to broadcast to. If there are a number of people out there who'll put their hands up and say, hey, I'm happy to share this, and giving you the content you need. And I believe if there is not already a channel set up for that, there'll be a way of getting involved in that as a community, just helping push our community to other areas. That maybe that's in the way of artwork, photos, whatever it may be. So shared posts, or certainly jumping on board, as you'll see on our social media channels. We're going to start. You'll start to see more and more videos coming out on TikTok side of things, and on Instagram and Twitter. So just jumping on and sharing that content as well, and retweeting it, etc., is certainly something that helps push that further afield. If there's anything specific that you think you can add to our marketing campaign, please do get in touch with us, because we're an open team. We're happy to have other people come on board and help in areas that they feel that they've got experience in, or just a bit more knowledge input, whether that's just throwing a few tips out there, or whether it's actually becoming very active in our launch campaign. Please do come forwards.
Yeah, and to also add on to what the community members can do with the content, I guess it's really lucky that I come from like an influencer background, because if you want to find me on TikTok, it's caleb.m.roberts, and I've been creating content on there for 2 years. But then I went straight into the business side, and then I started coaching influencers on how to make content. But it was really good that I learned how to make it first, right? And on top of that, we'll be we'll be creating an education center to make everything pretty clear. Like, well, if we need to come up with videos on how to mint things or how the minting process, whitelist process works, but also the deep levels of the strategy that go into the game, because we don't want this to be a one-off game and only focusing on the mint date. It's, the game has to be played after the mint date, and we're really focusing on making sure you guys know everything you need to play the game effectively, and potentially make a lot of money, or get a lot of notoriety for being part of one of the 42. So that we're coming out with a education center for there too. So hopefully, what we really want, on top of you sharing our posts on our Instagram, Facebook, or whatever, you'll be able to share our how-to videos and then strategy videos too with your friends, so they can truly understand the depths of what Devolve is. So we're really excited about that, and I'm also in charge of making those videos.
Yeah. There's another message just coming there from Bizzle in our AMA. Some intelligent copyright for the general pop would be cool for email. Way to excite their brains, etc. So we are putting together what we would call a light paper as well, which is the white paper condensed down into just a couple of pages to give high-level concepts, etc. And that will certainly have some good nuggets of text that we can then copy out and have available to anybody who wants to just try and explain what Devolve is to a friend that might be interested as well, just in casual conversation. Because we understand, we've lived and breathed this for many, many months, and there are different layers. You don't have to know all the way through how it works. You just need to know the different levels and get people interested. So definitely that should be available in the next few days, I believe. Is that right, Jock? We're just finishing that up. Maybe he's on mute.
I was on mute, thank you. Yeah, that'll be available early next week, so it'll be great for everyone to be able to push out and show everyone else. Kenobi, do you want to touch on this concept of auto staking? It's kind of our new little term for it, but I think that's an interesting concept that hasn't really been talked about too much.
Yes, probably worth chatting about that as well. So we had someone say to us the other day, so when I devolve, I have access to the royalty pool, but I don't have access to it before I devolve. I said, yep, that's correct. And then, well, what if I want to, use that as my profile photo or whatever else for that NFT? And then we suddenly realized that, yeah, well, actually, just by having that devolved character in your wallet, you are effectively staked against the royalty pool without having to actually go and stake it and unstake it. So it's not like, oh, I've devolved, now do I stake it against the royalty pool? Do I sit there for 30 days? What if I then transfer wallets, etc.? The concept is, we've just named it auto staking. You still got complete freedom to list that on OpenSea. If it does sell, obviously, you've lost the rights to that part of the royalty pool. The new purchaser has those rights. So you can still do whatever you wish to it and choose at any point in time if you're going to claim your royalty pool accrued funds there. You don't,
because traditional staking, you're sending when you go to stake your token or your NFT, you're actually sending it through into the smart contract of that project. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So typically, you don't see that so much in NFTs, but yes, if you're farming, just mute your mic there, Job. If you're farming, you will send your tokens into the Sushi Swap or the Uniswap liquidity pools. You will then get a liquidity pool token back. You've got impermanent loss occurring as well, because one of those tokens may go up or down. So yes, and they have your tokens. So if anything malicious happens to that smart contract or something else, and maybe someone else on without their mic on mute there. Yes, in those cases, that smart contract has control of your token or your NFT, and you have to then pay gas to get that back out again, and you have to choose at what point you get it out, and it's not staked anymore. So we just kept it clean. If you have your an NFT in your wallet that belongs to, sorry, a devolved NFT in your wallet, then you're automatically staked against the royalty pool for whichever level you're in. Uh, uh, some interesting cool-off periods that, you know, will to you. So I'm involved. The pool is there as a global for that level, and just by devolve, you that pool total is divided by how the person is in place. Level ones have to be devolved before anybody could claim level one royalty pool. So the pool is still there in the background. You just need to make sure we hit that 10%. Otherwise, the first person that devolves can take everything for that level. Probably a few things, but it's in the white paper there. Probably more simply spoken.
Just asked, when you say availability of the pool, do you mean ability to draw on the pool's funds?
Yep, so the way this works then is it's a single draw. So if you have, let's just round figures around, say your devolved level 1 NFT is worth 1 ETH, you know, you do your own maths and research, please, first. If it's worth 1 ETH just for simplicity, you can take that 1 ETH out of the royalty pool, but you have to burn the devolved NFT. So your devolved NFT gets sent to the smart contract, it gets destroyed, but you get your 1 ETH back. There are now less devolved NFTs in circulation. So that's how we deflate the devolved NFTs. We've already sold, obviously, the devolving of the level ones after minting happens because you're creating level twos and level threes. And the deflating of the devolved NFTs happens by burning them to get your Ethereum if you wish to. You could sell that, of course, on OpenSea instead, and it would still live on. So if you did burn it, you've got to take into account, do I burn it now because there are less people in the pool, therefore I get a bigger percentage? But by burning it and getting my Ethereum out, I've got no way to get access to any future funds that pool may accrue through OpenSea. So there's some interesting dynamics there, is that as the gameplay goes on, obviously the level 6, 7, and 8 will probably trade for higher amounts on OpenSea. Those royalties feed into the entire pool. So level 1s will benefit from a level 8 sale and level 7 sale. So the pool might get bigger over time, but you're also going to get more NFTs in that pool that can divide it amongst it. So it's a bit of interesting gameplay there. There is no right solution. You can look at the code in the smart contracts. It's just pure math. It's about how the community plays it. If everyone holds their NFTs for eternity, going, well, I want to see what happens next year, then of course that's how the game's going to play. We don't know how to play. Did I answer that correctly? Basically, not correctly, but as in, was it clear enough there? Effectively, to draw from the pool once, you burn your NFT.
Yes, perfect. All right, well, we might wrap this up in the next few minutes, see if any other questions come in. I think Caleb's got to bounce very, very quickly, if not right now. You may have already
had to jump off. I think we had an hour allocated for this AMA. We've just touched that now. So some great questions there. I'm sure they're going to be asked a number of times, and we're happy to explain them over and over again. And we'll pop them together in explainer videos as well. That's part of the education centre that we're doing. We want this project to be something that you can come in and play at any level, and just keep peeling bits back and going, I hadn't thought about that actually. You know, and this is quite interesting or unique, and maybe, you know, we'd love to see the community get behind and actually make someone maybe even generating tools that work out the best times to get into a pool or whatever it may be. So please send us your feedback. Please keep adding to the AMA if you listen to this after the live. Add to the AMA questions in the channel so that we have a set to work off next time. And great, that's all from me.
Cool. Might just stay on for another minute in case anything trickles in, but pretty good to wrap it up after that then.
We're pretty clear on those questions.
Cool.
Hey guys, it's Big Will. Thanks to the AMA. Just before we wrap up, are you thinking about doing these sort of semi-regularly, or is it just if and when there's stuff to talk about, or is there going to be sort of a schedule for it? Usually that's the last question that we normally get in these sorts of things.
Cool. Yeah, definitely going to have a schedule on that. Did you?
Yes, there is. Yeah. I believe that we have something organised every day of the week in terms of like a different game competition, a bit of fun in the Discord. And one of those days, I Am Pie might be able to jump in and just say, I'm pretty sure one of those days is the team chat. So we may have formal AMAs, but we can also have these. We'll certainly be online for voice chat. But a schedule, definitely.
Cool.
The other thing we're going to try and probably do as well, we wanted to try this out in Discord, but we're probably we'd also like to move over to Twitter Spaces as well, so that people can anyone who jumps in there can bring friends into the room in a much easier way, and we'll probably run those a little bit shorter, maybe like a little bit shorter AMA, and then drive people to Discord for the final half an hour or whatever as well, just to finish up where it can be a bit more informal. But we want to try that angle as well, and that will be on a regular basis.
Awesome. All right. Well, I'd just like to also thank our amazing moderators, Big Will, SD, and Maxime. They've been absolutely phenomenal around the clock. So thank you guys so much for answering all the questions, being there to support the community. Yeah, you guys are fantastic. So thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to resonate that as well. Actually, it's been a big pressure, a big relief off my shoulders as well. So it means I can keep my head down in the back here, focusing on the stuff that matters. You know, the smart contracts and getting the code right. It just it really is nice to have such a streamlined Discord there. Also juicy as well. You know, amazing setting everything up and fixing all the bits and pieces. He spends a lot of time behind the scenes as well, but not not necessarily seen.
Yeah, perfect. All right. Well,
thanks guys.
Everyone for listening.
Thanks guys. We'll see you in the Discord.
Thanks, Will.
Brilliant.
See you on the other side. Cheers.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.
All right. See ya.